Hey all, this is my Module 14 case study. My name is Paul Carter. This is the Internet Use Violations Threats over the World Wide Web. So Category 1, Problem Identification and Analysis. So what do I know? What I know is that Slattery Steno High School's principal, Dr. Harvey Smith, is great at his job. How do I know this? He was given Principal of the Year, or Principal of the Year in the state 2 years ago. He's respected by parents. Case study says that. He focused on maintaining a good reputation, not only for himself, but his school. He works diligently to only hire highly qualified teachers. All of that was specifically in the case study. Second thing I know is Miss Robin Tate has a very rigorous classroom, which is causing a lot of issues. She's focused only on academics, not building relationships, which is going to kind of come to harm her, and we'll talk about that quite a bit. She's very serious in class and only focused on the content. Many parents and even students have complained, and she does not implement suggestions well. Third thing we know is that there was a Facebook page created that threatened Miss Tate. Miss Tate was emailed this Facebook link. Miss Tate felt very threatened, even threatened enough that she drove back home to stay with her parents that night, didn't want to stay by herself. And Miss Tate thinks that a student named William Hall created the threat. We don't have any evidence, but we'll talk on that later as well. So what do I need to know in this situation? Has William Hall or his family complained about Miss Tate? We know that a lot of parents and students have, but we don't know specifically about William Hall. Is this one of the reasons that she's angry? Because Miss Tate specifically brought his name up immediately. Has anything like this happened before? Dr. Smith already knows that the district technologist can trace emails, so for some reason he already knew that, so maybe this has happened, and it would help to know if what steps were taken in previous cases and like what discipline happened because of it. Third thing, what federal and or state laws as well as school board policies were violated? This would help understanding the severity of the case and how we should move forward with the discipline or the punishment given. And the last thing is, has Dr. Smith been consistently observing Miss Tate's teaching? We know he has at least a little bit because of the fact that he's given her suggestions, but we don't know how often. So we'll talk about that a little bit, because if he's been in there, has he noticed William Hall and William Hall's behavior? Problem identification. So what problem did I see? Miss Tate is not effective. She did not implement the instructions the principal gave her, or she was not able to do that. Her class is too rigorous. She does not build relationships well with the students, and should she just flat out be teaching at a college level if it's this rigorous? It's not at, let's say it's 11th grade class. This is not at an 11th grade level. So we need to make sure that she is being effective, because that is obviously a problem. Second problem I found is parents are unhappy with Miss Tate and therefore Dr. Smith. If they are complaining about a teacher over and over again and nothing is changing, the person they're going to complaining to, they're going to be mad at that person as well. So they think nothing's being done. Third thing is a threat was made against the teacher. That's obviously a problem. The threat specifically was the last line of that Facebook page, and that was, "Who wants Miss Tate to disappear?" So that's obviously a problem. And the last problem I found was, we do not know who made the threat. Miss Tate believes it's William Hall, but there is no evidence against him at this point. So we have to be able to find all these things out. We need to solve these 4 problems. Category 2, proposed plan of action with appropriate strategy for implementation. So this is what I would do, my 3 steps and how I would solve these issues. Step number 1, I would solve the issue of this specific threat by the Facebook page. Strategy 1, I would involve the superintendent so he's filled in. If threats are being made against teachers, superintendent would want to know. Strategy 2, have the district technologist trace that email. Even if the student admits to doing it, we need proof. And so having them look it up would be able to give us that proof. Strategy 3, discipline the guilty party according to district policy. Find out what that policy is and obviously just follow it. Step number 2, school-wide assembly on cyberbullying. Bring the whole staff and students together. Strategy 1, teach staff and students what cyberbullying is. They probably know what it is being in high school, but just make sure that everyone's on the same page. Strategy 2, discuss the consequences. Let them know what they are. We're not trying to scare them, but they should know what they are. Strategy 3, continuing staff development on spotting and dealing with students who are cyberbullying so teachers can identify the problems earlier. Step number 3, developing Miss Tate as a teacher. She's not effective. We need to make her effective. Strategy 1, how I do that is give Miss Tate a mentor teacher if she doesn't already have one to follow. Another science teacher that she can emulate. So find that awesome veteran teacher that's in the building. Strategy 2, send Miss Tate to a training on building relationships with students. She's not good at it. The case tells us that, and you can't be an effective teacher without being able to build positive relationships with students. Strategy 3, formally and informally observe Miss Tate's classroom. Tell her you're coming, watch her whole class period. Don't tell her you're coming, watch her whole class period, and then give her pointers from what you see so that you can consistently help her become a better and effective teacher. And strategy 4, hopefully it doesn't get to this point, but if no improvements are made, do not renew Miss Tate's contract. She should not come back for year 3 if she cannot become effective. Category 3 is resolve issues based on promoting the success of all students. So, resolution, my 3 steps. Was it best for students? Well, let's find out. Step number 1 was solve the issue of this specific threat. So, how is a step best for students? It set a precedent for this type of behavior. Threatening teachers and creating threatening social media pages and posts like Facebook page is unacceptable, and students need to know that. Dr. Smith would be modeling to students how to handle difficult situations by involving the superintendent and involving others and going through it at a very strategic way. Let students know that cyberbullying is a serious offense. Students would understand the school policy was being enforced. Students will know that the process was followed. It wasn't just Ms. Tate's accusation that was taken into account. We followed through and we got all the information that we could before we made decisions. And the last thing is it helps create a safer learning environment. Students would feel safe if that we followed all of these different steps. So yes, step 1 was best for students. Step number 2. School-wide assembly on cyberbullying. Was that best for students? Yes, because all students are taught about the dangers of cyberbullying, which is a good thing. The case states that many students complained about Ms. Tate, so multiple students could be involved more than, let's say, William Hall is guilty. He probably had help as well. So it addresses the entire population of the students and staff. The school is all on the same page. We're all in this together. This would help create a culture of safety and respect amongst all. And then this would help stop rumors from spreading. The threat was posted on Facebook, so obviously students, parents, community members would know about it, and the community would see, because of our school-wide assembly, that at least we're trying to do something to help prevent cyberbullying. Step number 3, was that best for students? Developing Ms. Tate as a teacher? Obviously, if she's effective, it will be better for students. Because this will help students build positive relationships with her, because students didn't before the incident. Ms. Tate hasn't even been successful in creating these positive relationships, and Dr. Smith's coaching hasn't helped. So hopefully continuing her development will help her become a teacher, or even, like I said, termination at the end of year 2, or at least non-renewal of her contract. Second, and this will help make the class less rigorous and therefore more enjoyable. I'm not saying make the class easy, but make it more age appropriate. If they're 11th graders, it is for an 11th grader, not a college student. Students will be more engaged, and then obviously because of this, less students would be complaining. Category 4, debrief the problem by reflecting on what you were thinking, feeling, and valuing, and identifying issues that are unresolved or open to further investigation. So what was I thinking, feeling, and valuing? I was thinking that the number 1 issue that Ms. Tate had, she wasn't able to build those positive relationships, like I've been saying. Ms. Tate needs to learn how to take constructive criticism and implement it in her classroom to become better. And I was thinking that Dr. Smith needs to take more steps in ensuring that all of his teachers are effective. Maybe this is through observations. I was feeling a little sad for Ms. Tate. Being threatened is not a great thing. I've been threatened myself as a teacher, and I know I felt helpless. I was angry at the students, obviously, who created this Facebook page, and I was even upset at Dr. Smith for not handling the situation sooner. If he's getting all these complaints, why was nothing done to where it escalated to this point? I was valuing that student-teacher relationships. I've mentioned that many times. You have to have those positive relationships. I was valuing mentoring new teachers. She should have that mentor, as I stated before. And I was valuing building a positive atmosphere in school. If you don't have a positive atmosphere in school, you're not going to be a successful school. So unresolved issues that we have left, we still don't know who created the Facebook page, but we'll find that out. Is Ms. Tate going to be able to adapt? Hopefully. I would like to see her back, obviously, for year 3. How's the community going to react? Because obviously it was posted on Facebook. Everyone knows. Further student and parent backlash. If Ms. Tate does not get better and we keep her as a teacher, parents are going to be upset. And then how to successfully implement school-wide training. Hopefully we can do that successfully, but it's going to take time and it's going to take consistency. Category 5, is making sure that we are acting with integrity, fairness, and in an ethical manner. So that component one is acting with integrity. Yes, my strategies and my plan was with integrity because I did not immediately assume Miss Tate was telling the truth and William Hall was guilty because I planned that meeting with William, and if needed, I would have that district technologist. So that's integrity. I looked at the Facebook page myself to see it firsthand. Didn't just take Miss Tate's point of view from it. I acquired the help of others, including the superintendent. This helped keep my personal bias against Miss Tate or the student William Hall out of the situation. It's nice to have the outsider's point of view. I always had all parties' best interests in mind, and that included Miss Tate, keeping her safe, as well as the student without disciplining them without further investigation. And I didn't embarrass anybody during this whole situation. Component number two is acting with fairness. I acted fairly because I scheduled that meeting with William Hall to hear his side of hear that side of the story. I would include more administrators in the meeting besides myself to help, obviously, with that personal bias. I did not suspend or expel any students without that thorough investigation. District technologists would be brought in, like I mentioned before. Ms. Tate was given many resources to allow her to become more effective. That's acting fairly. We renewed her contract after 1 year for being unsuccessful to try to continue to train her. And I personally would help. My strategy says I'd personally help Ms. Tate by observing her, and that would be acting fairly as well. All students and staff would benefit from a cyberbullying training. This would allow all students and staff to understand the severity of cyberbullying. I would know that staff and students knew what cyberbullying is, so that in the future, if situations like this arise, I could act even more fairly. And then was I acting in an ethical manner? And the answer is yes, because I modeled to staff and students how to handle difficult situations. They would know that I was following all state, federal laws, school board policies. Others, including the superintendent, were included. Acting alone can be considered unethical, and so I was adding others into the situation that needed to be there. And Miss Tate is actively being mentored on how to become a better teacher. We didn't just expect her to become better by herself. These are my references. This is this case study that we were given. Hopefully through my steps and my strategies that we would be able to handle this situation effectively.